Hello,
All right.
Danny.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm pretty well.
Good,
I'm
good.
I'm, I'm alive and everybody in the company is still healthy, so I think we're doing good.
Excellent. Well, that's really good news to hear as well. And it's good to
How,
talk
how,
to you, my
how, how-
friend. We've been in this industry such a long time, you and I, and it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to interview you.
Absolutely. I remember we met about 20 years ago. It must have been at least.
Hey, you're giving away our ages now. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to catch up with you for a few minutes. We've been doing these series of interviews with some leading professionals in the industry, and I thought we got to get you involved in this. So, the COVID-19 coronavirus is having a dramatic impact all around the world. Uh, what are you seeing from your perspective? What have you seen with as a result of COVID-19, how it's changing the industry, and how it's affecting you guys as well?
Well, basically, we've seen very quickly a shift to home agents. Basically, all our clients all over the world have now very rapidly moved all their agents to become home workers. This applies to the UK, to Europe, South Africa, Australia, various places. Um, and basically, I think it's one of these things that prove that the old saying that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that projects that would sort of normally take years to try and move to home agents have now been done in a matter of days.
Right.
Um, and people have been very quick to respond because they have no choice. They either move the agents home or they have no business. Um, you'll find that we had phone calls from call centers that have 1,000 agents that basically said we need to move them all tomorrow to work from home. So we managed to do it. Uh, but it's one of those things where you just have to improvise, think on your feet. The other thing we've seen is huge fluctuations in agent numbers. Some contact centers have basically reduced their workforce to the bare essentials, and we've seen some of them reduce their numbers by almost 80%. Others had to quickly scale up. So if you look at airlines, government advice services, insurance, delivery services, all those, they were swamped. So
Hmm.
basically they had very quickly to ramp up. So what you've seen is a shift from some call centers that had to drop very quickly to others that had to ramp up very quickly.
Right.
Again, these are the kind of major shifts we see at the moment.
And because you operate all around the world, and you're referencing the UK, South Africa, etc., are you seeing that everybody's focusing on this or doing this at the same time, or is there a lag? Is, like, for example, South Africa a little bit behind what's happening in the UK, or
Yeah, the lag is typically measured in days.
right?
So basically, you clearly, in the same way you've seen governments move at different speeds, you also see call centers moving at different speeds, basically reacting to what their government is telling them. So if the government looks a little bit sort of relaxed about it, then they will wait. And the moment there is a change of tack, and the government says, right, you have to self-isolate, everybody needs to work from home, then the next day you'll see most of the clients we work with have to come up with a solution. So I think it's been very much hand to mouth.
Right. And what do you see as the long-term prospects for centralized contact centers?
Well, there are several things that I see here. First of all, it's a very good question. It's a little bit like um, people learning to swim.
Hmm.
This is the kind of metaphor I can think of. You can see some people swimming in the swimming pool, but you're still holding on to the side, thinking, "Well, I'll give it a go. Maybe I'll try it at some point." But you hold on to the safety of the side. Now, what happened here is that there's been a big wave, and everybody had to let go of the side and swim. So suddenly they will realize that there are huge benefits from home working. So you'll find that they will realize that they've got reductions in costs in terms of rents, utilities, canteen services, and so on. Employee flexibility. So basically, they can work with sort of very strange opening hours because people working from home.
Hmm.
It's better for the environment, and now it's proven because they had to prove it. So I think that possibly a large proportion of contact centers will never go back. to their premise-based contact centers. Or at best, what they may do is a hybrid model where they basically will have some core teams still working from an office, but I think the vast majority of agents working from home. The other idea is to actually maintain a small office where you can actually get people so once a week or once a month come in, but the rest of the time working from home. But there is a sort of reverse problem in terms of disaster recovery. At the moment, if you have everybody in a location, you can actually organize disaster recovery because you can move them to a different location, or you can have a different data center and so on and so forth. What happens is people working at home, if a whole area or town is struck by some kind of loss of broadband or power or cellular connection, then there is a problem because you can't really take them anywhere because they're all working from home.
Right.
So I think disaster recovery will have to be very carefully considered in terms of what do you do with these people, and you probably have to move them to some kind of disaster recovery location.
And for all those companies who are now in that scenario that you quite nicely painted about, being a big wave comes along, and they really don't know about what technology to utilize because they've been an on-premise organized, typically had on-premise technology. What sort of technology is out there that could help facilitate a very rapid move to work from home?
Well, there are basically two issues as far as technology is concerned. There's voice and there's the application. So basically you need to get two things into the home. You need to get telephony and you need to get the applications that they're using. In terms of telephony, there are three main options in terms of technology. You can use the mobile network or landlines. Most contact center telephony platforms would have the ability to use any telephone as an extension.
Right.
So basically you can use your mobile, you can use your landline, you can use any telephone connection you've got and be available. Now, the problem with that is that although it works, and for short-term solution is brilliant, it's actually quite expensive because you'd actually need to pay for a leg of a call that goes from your data center or whatever it is into the home. So the alternative to that is to use a voice over IP soft phone on a laptop, or these days you can have VoIP apps on mobiles. So basically you can use an app that most telephony providers would supply these days that connects to your home broadband, and then you can have your calls over IP, which means that there's absolutely no call charges.
Right.
On the other hand, you can also use soft phones over broadband on a laptop or on a home computer. These are very much sensitive to the quality of your home connection. So assuming you've got a pretty good connection, you're very it's a very good solution. So in terms of voice, these are basically your options. In terms of applications, the main questions here are to do with security.
Okay.
So you don't really want to take your applications over the open internet, because this clearly creates a security concern. So the solution to that typically is to create some kind of VPN over broadband. VPNs are quite popular these days. Everybody sort of knows what they are, but you can have different qualities of VPN. But actually allowing people to connect to the data center over VPN is the best solution in that situation. The other things with applications is that it's very important to use collaboration tools such as Microsoft Teams, My Team Meetings, Zoom, Join Me. There's a whole range of those that you can use, and they're essential for team cohesion because you want to be able to have team members talk to each other. You want to have supervisors being able to talk to their teams, to have little sessions where they can discuss what's going on through the day. So this is a very important thing to be able to communicate, and they're very popular these days. Most of them are cheap or free. Finally, the last thing in terms of technology is the revival of things like call scripting, because what you can do then, because I mentioned this kind of fluctuation in size, you suddenly
Mm-hmm.
have some call centers that have to get rid of 80% of their staff, and other call centers who have to sort of quadruple in size. Now, if you can take agents and reduce the amount of training that they need, and put them on the phone within hours, then something like call scripting is essential. And we've seen that, for example, in the UK with the NHS, National Health Service support lines, where they can take agents and put them in front of a script. They can ask you questions about your symptoms, and very quickly determine whether you need to go to a hospital, whether you need to self-isolate, or whether you are actually not in any kind of danger.
Okay.
And all this stuff can be scripted, and therefore you can take somebody almost off the street and put them on one of those helplines, and they can become very quickly very effective.
Absolutely. That's really interesting. So talking about your company, how do you then deploy some of these solutions if you guys are restricted from traveling as well and having face-to-face meetings right now?
Well, first of all, we always deployed our solutions remotely.
Okay.
In any environment, ranging from Microsoft Azure to AWS to Google Cloud, data centers, even on-premise. So deploying the solution is extremely straightforward. It doesn't affect us at all. The main difficulty, however, is the training, because the best training is face-to-face.
Okay.
However, this is clearly impossible at the moment. So what we've done, we have started delivering training in a virtual classroom with hands-on sessions. And this also suits home workers, because our trainers can work from home, and the people who need to be trained can also work from home. So we've done that quite successfully in the past, particularly with installations in remote parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
If we need to train somebody in Australia, we very rarely send somebody on site. We simply do an online session, and that seems to work quite well. We can also deliver technical support remotely, and we've done this forever.
Yeah.
And we can do this securely now from home as well. We basically have taken the whole company for the last week, and we're all working from home. And we've seen basically no difference. We work just as well as we did before.
So question for you then, as a the head guy in your company, the CEO, you founded the organization, I believe, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So what are your long-term plans? And if once we got past coronavirus, do you think you guys will go back to an office, or are you kind of comfortable now working from home?
Well, we will continue with our hybrid method. We've always employed people working in the headquarters, at home, and in our secondary office. We basically we have two offices.
Mm-hmm.
We have one in central London and one in the north of England. We have split our workforce, so we have about 2/3 in London and 1/3 up north. And we have about 3 or 4 people working independently from home. They cover various other things. We may expand the number of people working from home.
Mm-hmm.
Up from, I don't know, 10% of the company to maybe 20% of the company. But in principle, we always allowed people to work from home as and when they needed to.
Right. Understand.
We really value the opportunity to actually meet face to face.
Mm-hmm.
Purely from a psychological point of view, from a team cohesion point of view. They don't have to be there every day, but every Friday, for example, we have a communal lunch that the company funds. So basically, whether you're in the office in London or in the office in Durham, you try to bring you in, and we just serve everybody lunch, and we have a chat. We talk about the world, the universe, philosophy, politics, gossip, and everything else. And this makes us communicate on a human level rather than just as professionals.
So are you still continuing on with that, but doing it in the virtual world now, using?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now is we're doing it on Teams.
Yeah.
And we get everybody to join. We did it on Friday, and it was the first time we did it remotely, and it was a great success. We sat for an hour, we chatted, we compared the food we prepared at home and various stories about our family members, and how we coping with all this isolation. And it was great. We also set up a company WhatsApp group.
Oh
So
yeah.
basically, nothing to do with business, nothing to do with work. It's a WhatsApp group where you can actually post videos, pictures, little stories, and communicate on a personal and human level rather than on a professional level. And that also helps.
Yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually. That's some good ideas there. So, with everything that's going on, have you got any like success stories you can share? You know, some good news stories just to
Yeah,
add into what we're talking about.
yeah. There's a couple of things that spring to mind. The first one is that we currently work with several large contact center outsourcers. And they are now taking on very quickly work on behalf of the National Health Service here in the UK, which is massively trying to expand their workforce. So we are working with one of those outsourcers to deal with about 1.5 million people in the UK who are considered to be extremely vulnerable to this epidemic.
Okay.
So what they are doing is we ensure that they get a phone call once a day, and they're being asked whether they actually need any assistance of any kind. Because you can imagine there's a 1.5 million phone calls to be made every day.
Yeah.
They are most of these phone calls are automated. So basically, they get a phone call and say, if you want to speak to somebody, press 1. If you're okay
Yeah.
and you don't need to speak to anyone, press 2.
Makes sense.
So what happens is that if they choose to speak to somebody or if they need anything, they can speak to an agent. They actually have connections into the local authorities, and now the military is assisting as well, and they can get things delivered to their door. These are people with severe health conditions, people who are very old, disabled, with all kind of problems that doesn't, that puts them at very high risk. Very quickly, these outsourcers that we work with have organized themselves using our technology to actually deploy this kind of service within basically hours, and provide all the contacts to all local authorities in the country to actually provide assistance and help daily to these people.
That's really good. That's very good.
So that's one thing we've done, and we're providing all this software free of charge in order to assist with this service.
That's good.
The other thing that I've thought about, which may come as an advantage in the long term, and this links to the question you asked earlier about will they go back to the centralized call center or not. Well, if you think about home working, that provides added flexibility for contact center agents. At the moment, if you were in a contact center, you work for one company. Now, if you are a professional contact center agent and you work from home, you could, in theory, become a sort of freelance contact center agent. And therefore, it will give you flexibility as an agent to work a 4-hour shift for one company in the morning, a 2-hour shift over lunchtime for somebody else, and maybe another shift in the evening, work around your childcare arrangements, or perhaps around your family arrangements. And also, it offers flexibility to the companies that they basically can work around their peaks and troughs. So they can actually take some of this freelance agent that work from home and say, I would like you to work a 2-hour shift, which is fine. So in a way, this trouble we find ourselves in with this terrible epidemic is generating all kind of new ways of thinking, which can actually in the long term be beneficial to the industry.
Interesting. So, some very interesting ideas, some very interesting stuff that you're doing. Lastly, any other tips that you would give to anybody who's still struggling right now with, there's lots of technology out there. I don't know how to motivate agents. Not sure what we should do. Any other last sort of parting tips that you can give us?
I think that basically I try to cover everything in what I said before. It's very important, as I said, to keep in touch with the members of your team. So it very quickly you could, because of the distance, you can actually lose touch and basically treat people as some kind of resource, which of course they are, but you want also to treat them like humans. So setting up things like WhatsApp groups, doing things like using Microsoft Teams or using Zoom or using a variety of other things to have daily meetings in the morning or in the middle of the shift, and being able to use this kind of technology that this day is available, particularly social media and messaging services, to actually keep in touch with people as they isolate over time. As I said before, I think, this kind of periods of difficulty always make people become more inventive and more creative in the way in which they work, and in the long run, we'll all come out stronger out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good words of wisdom there. Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much for your time today. I look forward to seeing you again. It's a shame we were supposed to meet up.
Yes.
I believe last week at the call centre show in London, but we'll see each other again soon, my friend. Thank you. You take care and stay safe.
You too, and take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.